welcome to my YouTube channel. Yay! I'm so excited to be back today. And not only am I back, I have such an amazing, sweet girl with me today. Her name is Stacy, and she's going to talk to this month, right? You said this month? So this month is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And what other way is to bring it out by having someone that has actually experienced that can talk about it, that can talk out loud and no longer suffer in silence. So, Stacy, how are you?
I am good. Good morning.
I'm so glad that you said yes. Thank you for allowing me to come into your home. I'm so excited to be here. I have a few questions. You know, what I want to do is I want to have women to come on the couch and we talk and be free. You know, we don't have to look into the camera and feel nervous, but we can be authentic and raw and just, you know, just girl talk, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. So, let's talk about first. How did you get to NC? Because you're not from here, right? Where are you from?
So I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
How far is that from here?
Pittsburgh is 8 hours from North Carolina.
Okay. You travel back and forth a lot?
Yes, I go as often as I can.
Okay.
It's not too bad. But I came to North Carolina by way of my husband.
Okay. Which is, I'm sorry, who's that?
His name is Brandon Watson, her cousin. Yay. Yes, I got here. I came to North Carolina by way of my relationship with Brandon Watson.
Okay. So you basically started all over.
I did. Brandon and I were college sweethearts, excuse me. When we were traditional students at Tuskegee University, time had separated us for a while. In 2012, I had made a decision that I was going to go back to school to go ahead and finish that degree that I was starting at Tuskegee.
Awesome.
And fall 2013, I made that reality, and me and my 6-year-old daughter at the time, Jasmine, had moved from Pittsburgh and relocated to Tuskegee, Alabama, 14 hours away.
No family, so you don't know nobody here.
No resources, no nothing down there, just me and my daughter and a dream in my heart.
Wow.
Even preparing to go down to Tuskegee, God had told me that going back to Tuskegee was only 10% about school, and the other 90% would open up as life unfolded. And that's exactly what happened. If I didn't trust him, I would have probably not have gotten all the blessings out of the detours. Because again, when I got down to Tuskegee, I thought I was going back to school. I was in school, then Brandon had came down and visited, and here I am, you know. So, but even in that detour, purpose, right? Because I wouldn't be exactly where I am sitting today to have this conversation with you, right?
That's amazing. And that's so true. Sometimes we don't like to trust what God is telling us to do, or we may not understand, like, is this really him, or is this what we want to do?
You have to trust,
you know,
his voice.
Will is not our will. That's the crazy thing about life, is his will. We have our life planned out as little girls, and as we get older, God is like, yeah, this is the way that I want you to go, and you're like, no, God, let me put you over here, you know. So that's amazing. Glad to hear that. So, first of all, before we get into you getting here, I want to know about your childhood. Like, I want to know about Stacy, outside of the wife, outside of the children. Like, who are you? Where did you birth up from?
All right, so born and raised Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I was raised by my grandmother. My grandmother raised me since I was, all of my life that I can remember, but I'm going to say since I was about 14 months old. She had me and my twin brother.
So, do you have parents?
So my mother and father, they were still alive. My mother's in my life, that's my mom. At that time, she was struggling with an addiction.
Okay, what type of addiction?
Drug addiction. She had a drug addiction, and that actually happened back in 1980. What was it, 80 or 82? One of those years before I was born, though. My uncle was murdered on Christmas Eve. So kind of going through that trauma. At the time, this is the 80s, like I'm speaking to, what was a new drug of choice. I mean, it just hit nobody knew what was going to happen. And somebody kind of told my mom, hey, why don't you, and there was that.
Wow.
Yeah. So at that time, when my grandma had, like I said, we had gotten with her, I think about between 11 and 14 months. But at that time, she had already had my older sister. Because again, my mom was.
So how many brothers and sisters do you have?
So my mother has 4 children.
Okay.
And my older sister, my twin brother and I, and then my young brother Chester.
Okay, and your grandmother has raised all
and my grandmother ended up with all of us.
Are you serious?
She raised
us
all. But that is, you know, it's interesting to see how just one decision can trickle down.
So quickly.
My grandmother lost her mother when she was 8 years old. She was the oldest of 4 kids. But her grandmother took all of them in. So it's like a decision. That's just, and even with me, like I would, it's something I would learn. So if something happens, God forbid, I want to step in those systems. Want to take,
Right.
So I'm grateful for that.
That's good. That's good. So you still had, like, even though you were being raised by your grandmother, you still had a relationship with your mother and your father?
It was just
like
grandma.
them, hate them?
Okay,
like,
so,
how did you feel about that?
So I told you about my mom's story. I didn't tell you about my dad. So my grandma raised us both. My mom was on drugs. My dad had been in jail.
Okay.
The whole time. Like my dad had just gotten out. Shout out to Facebook for reminding me. It was just 7 years ago.
The memories, girl, they hit different on it.
But 7 years ago, so congratulations, Dad. You've been home for 7 years. But at that point, he was gone for 28.
Are you serious?
Yes. So like my dad was my whole life. So literally, it was just grandma. But God knows what He's doing because again, looking back, we can look at the lack, and of course there was a lot of difficulties with that. I mean, it's hard as a kid not having not mom or dad that can really have its own impact and its own trauma. And life was not easy or fair for us. Like the systems, everybody just judged.
Yeah,
It was really hard on my grandma. And even on us, we was always treated as third-class citizens. My brothers, I really heard it for them a lot growing up because they were just labeled as bad. And look at this, look at that. No mom, no dad. But thank God we have evolved as a people and we have more compassion for that. Again,
I believe that you can grow up, like even with your situation is different from mine. See, I grew up with both of my parents and you would thought that I grew up by myself, you know what I'm saying? Because I still grew up alone, I still grew up angry, I still grew up bitter. I still grew up very confused about life, and I had both of my parents in the home. And I think as I've gotten older, that it doesn't necessarily mean about who's in your home. If you look upward, like he is, he said that he'll be a father to the fatherless, and literally, he has been just that. But I believe the roles that I have took in life had a lot to do with the type of relationship that I had with my parents. So
that's true.
That's real.
And I also, when I was trying to speak to, like, I don't even question missing my mom and father not being there because I can understand today that yes, we didn't have mom and dad, but because of God being so strategic, that we were raised by a well-established adult.
Right.
Think about that impact. So yes, there was so many things like it could have been worse. Seriously, could you imagine being raised? I mean, God forbid they didn't go to jail or the drug and addiction. There was addiction that they could maintain, and the trauma we've just been dragged along by those adults trying to raise us as they were. Like so I thank God every day.
All things do work together.
All things work. He knows it. He knows. God knows, and
that's really real.
Grandma's the reason why I know God.
So you love, like, of course you love your parents, but was there a time period where you had anger and bitterness in your heart?
So that's a good question. I always understood my dad's situation. That's in a weird way. I always had understanding there. As a child, I understood enough that you do the crime, you pay the time. If nothing else, I can understand that. But as a child. For a long time, I used to think like my mom chose the drugs over us. So that was a little harder for me too. So I was always a little harder on my mom about it. But of course, I'm so proud of her now because my mom has been clean for 22 years this year.
Oh my God!
So God is good. So yes, my mom's been clean for 22 years
Look
this
at
year.
That. And I've seen her. She's a beautiful spirit.
She
looks just like you and what do I call him? Our baby boy.
Oh, Khalil.
I call him Kill. But either way, that's beautiful because everybody doesn't have that story. Some people don't.
She's out there helping others try to get to the other side.
God, we're gonna have to talk. I would love to talk to her. How my heart is for that. I would love to talk to her. Wow. So she comes and she visits, and you guys have formed that relationship. I know your grandmother is still like there, but
grandma's
still number one. But
my mom is mom.
Your mom is
mom's my champion. I say that all the time. Like. Yeah, my
So
grandma might be my hero, but my mom is my champion.
Right.
And I'm very grateful for
That's
both of their roles in my life.
My grandmother didn't raise me. My mom raised me, but honey, my grandmother it's something about them old school grandmothers, boy, and their prayers and how they cover you. My grandmother actually, she taught me how to pray. And I remember as a little girl going in there, she would pray for everybody. Like, people I didn't even know, but she was calling out people's name. My grandmother and my great-grandmother. And now I see that, she was covering her children, so her children can cover her children, and I can cover my children. So that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So let's talk about the big issue, the big issue that is this month. So you have been violated before. When did that start? And
so many different fragments. So unfortunately, but fortunately for me, because I'm a survivor, I was a victim of survivor. I would rather say, choice of words. I am a survivor of child sexual assault, which is just like non-penetration. So like all the other things that you can think of with non-penetration.
Are you serious?
And that was just like most of my childhood. I mean, as early as like 4.
4 years old.
Having I can remember like the babysitter, like and all types of stuff.
Oh
As
man.
little as 4. That's my earliest memory as far as something happening to me. I was raped for my virginity at 13. I had peer rape happen to me after that, and then I had experienced date rape in college. Like it seemed to keep happening until I had gotten pregnant with my daughter Jasmine. And without me even knowing or saying I was going to stop it, it was just like an awareness of whatever. I couldn't understand what was happening, because that's the thing. Although rape can happen in your adult in our adult lives, when it happens to you as a child, it shapes so much of your ideals and what you think is right or wrong moving forward, that I didn't have the protective barriers to protect myself as a child, because again, like I said, these things have been happening to me since I was about 3-4 years old, and you kind of just have to just get through it. You teach yourself that it's just a part of life, and you just do whatever you gotta do. So I would hide to try to avoid it from happening, and if I couldn't hide and try to avoid it from happening, you go tuck away to your safe place.
So did you know the
I have known every single. No one has ever been a stranger. The strangers don't come.
Wow.
The stranger never comes. It was always someone that either my grandmother or trusted to watch us, or someone else in my family had trusted to bring in who would have access to me. So that's always a very good question. Actually, I'll get to this point in a moment, but it's a very good question. When a child tells you that they have been sexually assaulted, it's always good to think about who would have had access to your child at that time.
Wow.
That's like my twin brother was able to figure out who molested me, because he was able to figure out, he had to think back like who would have had access to me.
So, oh my God. Now, 4 years old to whatever, what made you keep and not know? Did you not know that this wasn't right? Or did you know that, wait, this is not right? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, when did you discover that this is not right?
I knew it was always not right. But see, I was always.
Were you scared?
I didn't want to get the other people in trouble.
Wow.
Ain't that crazy?
Wow.
Yeah. I had enough sense to know that this isn't right. But a lot of times, I have to say this too, it was never an adult.
Get out.
It was never an adult. Again, it was always like, well, that's not true. When I was 3 and 4, it was like a teenager though. So it wasn't an adult though. Like,
it wasn't an adult though.
It was never. It was like a child too, or a bigger child to me. So it was like I understood that it was never the adult, and I didn't want to get that other person in trouble. I mean, and again, to go back, because there's other pieces of the story that I will get to, but it comes up as we move forward with the timeline of my life. But me being pregnant with Jasmine, I didn't understand completely what was going on to me. I understood my responsibility to make sure it didn't happen to her. So that is what created self-protective practices and barriers in my life. By me simply protecting this little girl to make sure it doesn't happen to her, I was inadvertently protecting myself to kind of keep keep whatever was happening, just keep it away. And at that moment, and because of that, God, I began to heal and hide away in Him, and then understanding had become down the line, and so on and so forth. But having Jasmine, being pregnant with her, knowing that I didn't want it to happen to her, I was able to begin to at least speak to my best friend, and like to people like close enough to me that something happened to me. Certain parts of it's still to this day, there's certain things I still can't remember, because you suppress things that kind of survive. And God has been bringing things back out as He feels that I'm ready as time, even to this day, as He feels that I'm ready. Let's see, like I said, I mentioned certain pieces of it, or alluded to the fact that it happened, never went into details about it, and I was able to get a little bit freer to at least speak up to it. But it wasn't until me preparing for graduation 2018, and also the wedding.
Yeah, okay.
And this is where
everything
came full circle.
Right.
My sister, my big sister, she had FaceTimed me, and only God works the way He does, because if it was a phone call, she wouldn't have got to see my face to even know that something just happened. But because we were on FaceTime, and we don't never really, what we do, but not like that, but she FaceTimed me, And as she was preparing to, come down for graduation and everything, she had been dating a guy. And she was saying, like, she wanted to bring him down, da-da-da-da. And she's, like, trying to explain to me who he is. Because, I've been moved away for so long, and I don't know a lot of people up there. Because I left pretty much after high school, So she's telling me his name, like, I can't ring a bell. So she's describing, like, such and such as sister's ex-boyfriend. And girl, like, word vomit. Because from a place in my soul that I hadn't even spoke, like, I completely forgot about this incident.
Are you serious?
But, like, word vomit, she said his name and the thing, and then it just came up. And I'm like, he raped me. And my sister just, like, what? Like, she just, and at that point, she's like, oh my God, sister. And then from there, it's just like, I just had to start speaking to all these things, and I had to tell my family about what happened to me, because they didn't know anything happened to me.
Yeah. So you went through life like this?
I just had it all inside of me, but I had God. I had God. Like, he really, I don't know how else to say it. He tucked me away in him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even in the grace and the joy and the peace that I walk and I carry on a daily basis, I can't attribute to anything but him.
Yeah, because I would have never.
Nobody, I said, people like, what? I mean, and then the level and the layers of what happened to me, it's like, but again, that's him. That's what he will do. And I do know that this was my purpose. He only took me through it because he knew I would survive it, so I can stand forward to help eradicate it.
Because some women, they eventually come back and kill their accuser.
I mean, so many things.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, and I even want to help the accusers. I have
they need help too.
because people don't realize those the assailants were once the victim, and people don't realize that when it comes
that's
to, like,
normally how that is.
that's how that goes.
It's
a cycle. So it's like we have to have compassion for them too.
Yeah, because they
have to get the healing too. So
I really don't know what that looks like. Like for me, I've never been violated. Anytime, it was always. It was always. I was always ready to be.
So, no, but that's a blessing, Charlotte.
Right, it is. I thank God for that, because I don't know how that can affect somebody's mental. Like, I wouldn't dare want to have a Cover My Sister event and host it and speak on, I know where you're coming from, when I don't know what that feels like, or I don't know how that makes you feel as a woman, as a person. I wouldn't know, because I've never, ever experienced it. Even with, like, my uncles. Like, my mom was that mom that we didn't stay at everybody's house. We didn't go places. If we wasn't at my grandmother's house, we was at home. We didn't do sleepovers. You not coming over here, and we not going over there. My mom was quick to say no, but I thank God for that no now, because at first I would be like, Mom, why we can't never do? But she was protecting us from something. And me nor my sister or my brother, we've never experienced any of that. And I pray that my girls, I have 4 girls, and I pray that they never have to experience them. That's why I don't let them go stay off with people or stay off with any and everybody. If they're not at my grandmother's house, then they're home. At my mom's house, then they're home. But I don't know how that affects your mental state. Like, what did that do to you mentally? Before we get into how it made you feel as a woman, and how did it make, how do you look at men now, or how did you look at men? How did that affect you mentally as far as going forward with life? Because you still have so much that you still conquered with, school and degrees and all of that. And now, wife, a mom, and all of that. So how did you get here if that had to have not affected your mental, or did it affect you mentally?
So it did. Again, because my grandma raised me, obviously I knew I was raised in church, so I knew God and I knew church early, and I even had relationship at an early age. Like, that was very, very real to me.
That's good.
So when I say that, that's why even when I was going through those things, it was almost like I was, even at my own detriment, I was like turning the other cheek, like choosing to turn the other cheek. So while I didn't have the anger towards them, what people don't realize is, what comes instantly when you are sexually assaulted is the guilt, the shame, but it's the diminished self-worth. So while I didn't choose to want to hurt no one else or harm anyone else or wish anything bad on anyone, it did diminish my own self-worth.
So why do you think that for somebody that don't do that, because I'm sure you're able to look at it on both sides of the spectrum, why do someone else choose the opposite way than the way that you chose?
Again, like I said, the only reason why I can say that I know, the only reason why I can not say I know to be true why that's the way that I got through it is because I knew God. But like you said, if I didn't have that relationship, you know what I'm saying? Look, let's switch shoes. If say for instance my parents raised me and I wasn't in the church, or you know what I'm saying, and this happened to me, only God knows how I could have responded, reacted. I could have. I mean, there's so many different ways this shows up in people's lives, and there's not just one way. That again, I don't know, but for me, like I said, that diminished self-worth was real, and people couldn't understand. I mean, I had friends in college, and a lot of friends that would speak to, they couldn't understand, or guys, like, why don't you know who you are, or how dope you are, or how beautiful you are? But it's because while I took on all of that ugly, all of that, like I took it on, so when I seen myself, all I could see was what was done to me.
Wow.
So even though I'm walking through the earth, blessing people, helping people, when I looked at myself, I couldn't see the good that I was doing. I could only see what has been done unto me.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That made me get our eyeballs getting watered.
No.
Somebody
But God, because there is victory in all of this, man.
Wow.
So, but God. But like I was saying, it wasn't until, but like I have to speak to this to my grandmother. Growing up, when I was 5 years old, my grandmother had breast cancer. She survived it, and that was very scary for me because, again, not having no parents, grandma has cancer, knowing that we want her, we're happy she's there. And one thing she used to always say, and this is the part, and I'm trying not to tear up, is my grandma did verbally always speak that she didn't ever want nothing like that to happen. Like, she never wanted me to be raped. Like, she would say stuff like,
wow.
So at that point, even when she would start saying it, I guess as I was getting older, it probably was already happened. It already happened. I was afraid to say something to her because I didn't want her to feel like she failed me.
Wow.
So again, as a child, I'm carrying other people's stuff because I didn't want nobody.
Is that just you? I mean, because you do that. Like,
I do that. Yeah, I do that.
People,
I think
you don't want no one
I
to
don't want
be
to hurt,
sad
suffer.
or hurt anyone.
I don't want anybody to suffer.
Well, that's a part of life, though. We're gonna suffer,
know.
but I know that you feel like you can carry your cross and my cross and other people's cross.
I guess because because of
That's just Stacy.
I guess because I don't know, I've had real good relationship with people. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but I've always just had this way with people.
Right. Yeah.
And in a way that it makes them feel like they're safe with me and they can be honest and open in a way that they probably couldn't with anyone else. And because of that, I'm talking about, this has been going on since I was like a kid. So I have good, strong relationships with adults that don't even quit
Do
making
you
sense
see
on the
your
outside
children being
looking
the
in.
same? Like, do you see Jasmine being the same?
I do.
Way?
I feel like that is on them. I feel like that's what that thing that God put on me. I do feel like that's on my children.
Because it's not all bad, though. I think that's the beautiful thing that you don't.
It's not a bad thing at all. And it's what I do with it. And again, once I'm walking in His strength, I don't do it in my own strength.
Yeah.
I do it in His strength. And again, I've been collecting people's hopelessness. I feel like all my whole life. So it's not no surprise that down the line, here I am as a social worker, and it's just so amazing that only God can be so strategic, where none of that was in vain. He didn't have me carrying all this stuff for no reason, but He actually took me into a career that can help do something with people's pain and suffering. So.
I think about that movie when you said, "Here I am, a social worker." I can't remember maybe when I talk about it, I'm talking about.
What, Precious? Which one?
No, the girl.
Sorry, no, sorry.
No, the girl. So she ended up cheating on her husband. She with this amazing guy, but he had AIDS.
The Tyler Perry movie.
Yes, and what was it? But either way, she was a social worker, and she began to tell her story through being a social worker, talking to other girls on what she did. She stepped out of her marriage. She got with this guy that confused, that basically just messed her head up, and he gave her something she'll never be able to get rid of. And she lost the very beautiful thing that she had, which was her family, for this one guy. And then when you said social worker, I thought about you because she was light skinned. I'm like, you know what? I could see you, in your office sharing your story to help somebody else, besides doing your paperwork. But you know what I'm saying, living out your truths and helping someone. But my question is, has this affected your marriage? Do you think this has affected your marriage as being married to a male, being married to a man, being around men? Now having a son, has this affected you in that aspect of now I'm a wife and I'm still carrying all of this stuff that went through my childhood, that I've dealt with over the years with being touched or being violated. How does that make you feel? Because I know some women, even saying this, some women that have been sexually assaulted, it's hard for them to even have sex with their husband.
That's a very good question.
You know what I'm saying?
So one of the biggest things that me and my husband had, communication, number one. Communication is very key. And Brandon has been aware for the most part of that. That was my experience. It does show up, you know what I'm saying? Like I have to be honest about things with him. And Brandon has gotten to a level of understanding where he can really truly understand the cause and effect of sexual assault and how that could have its impact. Like for me, like sex, like in itself, like, you know, before I was married, I always struggled with wanting to be abstinent, you know, and stuff like that. And
how do you get there? It's a struggle, girl.
No,
I need to be there. I want to be where you are.
No. But it's like, I don't know. It has been a struggle, but again, just communicating with Brandon, communicating with my husband and being honest and open about the things that are okay with me and things that aren't, or anything that makes me feel, if something makes me feel some type of way.
That's what I was going to ask. There's certain
yes, because there are certain, yes, there really are. Like, there's certain things,
wow.
like there is certain things that can make my skin crawl, and it's not him. It's
but
just, it's a trigger,
man.
and I don't want, so we've had to, trust me, it has not been easy, but I am grateful for a strong marriage and a marriage that's going to sustain, because again, the only thing I can say, he was aware, and I'm grateful that, like, I had enough freedom with him to be able to let him know what was going on in some capacity before we got married.
I believe some wives haven't really told their husband or haven't experienced.
Again, because the suffering and silence is so real. I'm talking about, when I tell you, like, you have to suppress. When you're going through, that's the only way you're going to make it. Like, you have to sometimes just kind of tuck that stuff away, and we can be tricked into thinking we're okay, or we're moving forward,
or just try to bury it. I know I've buried a lot of stuff.
And I said, we got to deal with this stuff.
It just blew up.
It blows up.
It blows up, and I'm
up.
sitting back like I didn't set a whole fire because I didn't choose to deal with, you know, certain situations. Not that, because like I said, I've never experienced
that. And I'm so grateful to that for you.
I've never experienced that.
I remember I was talking about the wedding. So my sister had called. That happened, and at that moment I had to, because I think she either said something to my brothers or somebody, because I wasn't going. She knew I probably wasn't going to say nothing. So long story short, my whole family had gotten pulled in on this. Stacey has been sexually assaulted stuff, and I knew I had to now tell my grandmother. So that was the hardest conversation I had ever had, was having to call her and tell her, hey, Gram, you know, you sitting down, I told her it happened to me. She's crying. My grandma never cries. She's crying on the phone. I'm crying. She's telling me about how it almost happened to her. She was able to avoid it, but it almost happened though. Like, it was the neighbor hearing some rustling in the backyard that kind of called out, hey, Audrey, is that you? And that stopped. That saved her. So she knows that feeling. She's crying, and she goes on to tell me a story about when we were 2 years old. And I really hope my brother is okay with this, and I'll just have to trust in my spirit that he will be okay with me sharing this story.
Right.
He does know this, so he's not going to hear this for the first time in his life. I did share this with him, and again, for the sake of just healing and understanding that purpose is real and God has a plan for everything.
Exactly.
When we were 2 years old, my grandmother had a woman that would be babysitting us. And now, I didn't know the story until I actually was honest and told my story to my grandmother.
Wow.
So this was information that was withheld from me until I didn't learn this until 31 years old, at 31.
Wow.
So because I told my grandma my truth, she had something to share with me. When we were 2 years old, the lady that she had watching me and my brother, and she adored us. Like, this lady just lost 2 kids of her own, ironically. And my grandmother thought that would be the best thing for her.
Yeah.
And it was, like, this woman was so happy. She took such great care of us. Like, you know, it really brought her back from a dark place, back taking care of another set of kids. But she had a son that came home from the military. And he had, I guess, something he had done to my brother. And my grandmother said when she came to pick us up, I was crying. I was, like, telling her, like, something happened to Tracy. Like, we're 2 years old. We don't even have words. But she said, in my 2-year-old self, I was able to let her know that this boy put a blanket over my brother's head and he had did something to him. And my grandma knew enough to know that she did never take us back there. She trusted myself, and her brother wouldn't go to the bathroom for a really long time.
Are you serious?
I can cry now. I mean, I bought like because that's my twin. That's my heart. And the fact that I've been an advocate since 2 years old doing this work.
Wow. That's hurtful. That's hurtful.
So I knew and I understand very clear that God created me.
So you were able to.
I was able to
Gotcha.
save us.
Be
I was able
yeah.
to know what was going on, have enough sense to let my grandmother know, and her trust my words, and not be so pushed and concerned of her just needing a sitter. Because let's rest on that.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you, I know all about
And
it.
there's no judgment there. But again, she was able to trust my word and got us out of there. And not say, that was one incident. So again, that was the last and only thing she was aware of to all this stuff that I had to fill her in on as far as what happened to my life.
Now, I will speak when you say about that sitter. Sometimes parents, they need a babysitter.
That's what I said. I get it.
And not even knowing because they're trying to work and trying to provide for their family.
Yeah.
So they're not, I'm not even saying that they're blocked to it or they're like,
sometimes you can move so fast.
Be moving so fast. For me,
You think the kid could be crying because they just sad or something.
Oh, looking at them, I watch.
Just move so
I watch
fast.
my kids. I'm like, anybody touch you? Anybody touch you? What ain't supposed to be touching you? Anybody, and I don't let anybody keep them. But I remember going on the website looking for a nanny to come into my home so I could work. Like when just recently with all of this stuff happening, I became a single mom of 7, and I'm like, I need somebody that can come to my house and can watch my kids and do this and do that. And it was just like, when I got on the internet, I was like, no, I don't know these people. If my mom can't do it, then I don't know what I'm going to do. But gracefully, God sent me a family member, a cousin that actually does what she's doing. So, I mean, parents, sometimes they put their children in situations that they're not meaning to.
I know, and that's what I said. And there was no judgment. There was just the fact that we all
just
need
to
help.
provide for them.
Isn't that crazy? And that's the thing. It was always when I was putting someone else's care. It wasn't my grandma did anything wrong.
Yeah.
She had to have money to take care of these kids that aren't even hers.
They're not even hers.
So what else was she supposed to do? But it
Yeah.
just seemed like every time when I was in someone else's hands, this would always happen to me.
Yeah.
And I ended up learning that, I would start to now, so if this happens to me, I mean, from when I was around 7 or 8 years old, I started to realize, I need to stay with grandma. So when she left the house, I was leaving with her. I was trying to go with her. Grandma was leaving going to Bible study on Wednesday night. So where was I going to Bible study? Grandma was going to such and such on Tuesday nights at the church. So she was at the church all the time.
You were going.
I was going to church. So out of all
So
my
were you
siblings,
going to hide, or were you going because you really wanted to know who God was, or were you going because you didn't want to be left by yourself?
I didn't want to be it was just a whole mixture of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was all of it.
So now that you have girls, because you have 2 girls, little City Bitty, I'm her favorite, and she let the camera know I'm her favorite.
This is my daughter's favorite cousin. This is true.
Not to brag. But anyway, so how do you educate them? Even with your daughter being so young, how do you educate your girls that this is okay and this is not okay? This is okay to be touched and this is not okay to be touched. You're not going to be with this person. Even introducing Jasmine to Brandon, because she was how old when you guys got together?
6.
Okay, so how did you feel about leaving her if you needed to run to the store? Did you put her in the car with you? Or did you I trust Brandon because I know Brandon, for one, he's not. It's not about how he was raised.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about that, but you know or you don't know. What are your avenues on that? I want to hear about all of that.
So my girls, I've always had Jasmine especially, because it was just me and her for so long. Our relationship has always been straight up and down, very open. Jasmine has lived life with me, alongside of me, so I've always had real conversations with her, very honest conversations. Jasmine she gets asked often, has anyone I'm always doing check-ins.
She's
because Jasmine's a whole woman.
She's got more than both of us. She got blood and everything.
A whole grown.
How old is she?
She's just 12.
And she's
13,
your height.
and she's just fully grown. So it's just having her understanding the importance of her having autonomy over her body, number one. Your body is yours.
Yeah.
No one at this age should be touching. You're not like Sydney's age where it's the whole doctor situation. At this point, it's pretty clear that it's clear that no one should just be touching you and invading your personal space. You know what I'm saying? So conversations are a little bit different with Jasmine. Just using wisdom and stuff like that and trusting what I already put inside of her.
Right.
As a child. And with Sydney, just having, again, letting her know at an age appropriate space, at where she's at, who should be touching you, and when the appropriate time. Just because I tell you who might have the opportunity, who would have the permission, or would it be okay,
Right.
doesn't mean that they have access to you all day, every day,
Right.
throughout the day.
Right.
So there's a difference. You know what I'm saying?
So are you scared? Like, do you fear for your girls when they get away? That's good.
No.
Because someone, like, when I know, like, going to the doctor is like, and you're looking like, you don't have to do, okay, you still looking, like, or why you still in there, like, doing their little checks. Do that make you go, like, anxiety to watch them being touched or being able to be? That's good.
I realized, because I can only control what I can control.
Right.
So I can control teaching my girls. We can't control the outer world,
You can't,
but I can
right.
equip them in a way where they can understand cues, they can feel, they can trust their senses, because our bodies always tell us when we're in danger if we listen. So just teaching my girls how to pay attention to their body, how they feel. That my daughters are not made to hug family members at events. They don't have to do anything they don't want to do,
Right.
because that's what teaches women that they don't have control over themselves, and we're making them hug people and
Yeah.
do things that they don't want to
Like,
do.
go hug Uncle Leroy.
Go sit on Santa's lap.
Go
Sit over
sit.
here, this picture. Like, if that's not
My
what she
kids know
wants to
Santa's
do,
not real, so.
and they don't want to do it. So it's like we just have to have, again, like I
Yeah.
said, for me, I didn't have a lot of, I wasn't raised with a lot of protective barriers. Not that it was anybody's fault, but again, now that I had this issue, it made me naturally just raise my kids from the ground up with certain protective barriers. So because of that, I don't have to worry about a fear. You know what I'm saying? Of course, I pray over them,
Yeah.
but I don't worry and fear when they go out and about, because I trust that my daughters are going to come communicate with me. And
They're not gonna wait.
And I trust, yeah, exactly, because if, God forbid, it happens, because it happening doesn't have to be the worst thing in the world. It's when it goes unresolved.
Yeah.
Anything, we are, as a human people, we can conquer anything, but again, you can't heal what's hidden.
Mm-hmm.
So I want my girls to understand, no matter if it happens to them, the first thing they need to know is not their fault.
Right.
What happened to you was not your fault, and how do we get you back to a place where you can be safe in your body.
And be safe and be okay. That's true. I know, like, for me, I've always done the wide hugs. Like, I've never been able to hug you. Even still now, and then when I was married, I would never want to disrespect my husband and hug like that. So I've always done the wide hug. And I teach my girls, when we leave a family event, I don't be like, go hug so-and-so. Go tell them
Just do a
bye
big, yeah.
or do a wave. But I remember my daughter, KK, she's telling me, she told us something that she had been touched or somebody had touched her. And I was okay with the orange that I knew that I was getting ready to wear. I was okay with. I was okay with getting ready to go to prison, and I thank God for it because I was on the way to jail.
I had to catch what you said. But it is simple.
I was okay with no
That's
lashes
real.
and all that because I
That's
knew that I was getting ready to go to jail, and I was okay with it. And my husband, how do you put it? He was my husband at the time. If it wasn't from you need to think about, stop, slow down. I didn't even care that she's only 4. It was just that, she came to me and she told me something that didn't make sense. And now I'm getting ready to go see what the problem is. I literally left from Fayetteville and I got there. My mom was, the whole time, she was like, you need to calm down. It's not about calming down. It's about, I'm going to kill this little boy. And he wasn't a little boy. He was my brother. And he would never do that. But it wasn't the fact that I didn't know that he would or wouldn't. It was, this is what my daughter told me, and now I'm going to have to kill you because this is what she said. And it hadn't, he was like, no, I kept her. And then I'm like, KK, did this happen? And she was like, so sometimes kids can get you in a lot of trouble, or do they not say something because they know that it don't sound right, or it's not believable? Like, how do you know when a kid is really telling the truth?
You would hope that first of all, I guess you would hope that your kids
would tell you the truth.
But
a lot of kids see it or they hear it and then they go and spread it. Or then some that don't go, the ones that it really happened to never say anything.
But I feel like if a child tells you it's worth investigating.
It's worth investigation.
It's just not.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah, it's not. Thank you for saying that. I think that's a very good point. Versus just trying to figure out if it's truth or not. Always move forward with it, and if you got to apologize later, you apologize later.
Then
but you
feel
feel better,
right? Then just saying, "Girl, stop! Don't you ever say anything." Where would you say that from? No, I literally took what she said as if I'm her advocate and I'm her voice.
Yeah.
And I'm going to defend her at any cost. I didn't care about the fact that you still got 4 other kids. At the time, it was just 5. Then they just started rolling in. But it was like, no, this is what she told me and I'm going to believe her. I always want her to know that mommy believes you, mommy trusts you, and mommy's going to handle whatever she needs to handle to protect you. But as now she's 10 and I watch her closely. We don't go stay. And I thank God for our family. Like from the family my immediate family, I don't see that on them. I guess it's not something that you can see on them either. Like I said, I don't know because I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what a guy that touches little girls. I don't know what he looks like.
No.
Is there a look?
No, there's not a look.
So there's not a look.
There's not a look. That's why I said the stranger never came. The stranger never comes. The portrait of the person, there's no look. I mean, there's no gender.
Yeah, true, because I know little boys that
we
been
think about it all the time as it happens to women
girls,
and men being the perpetrator, but boys can be victims and women can be perpetrators.
Wow,
So
that's
you just never
true.
know.
I would love to hear a male perspective.
Yes,
I think
you
I'm
should.
gonna try to find one.
Yep, see,
Because I want to
brave
hear the
enough.
male perspective that's brave enough that can help another man.
Because that is perspective in a story that is worth hearing it from their side.
To hearing it from their side. I always like to get both sides of the spectrum. So what would you say, Stacey, to your younger self? What would now at 30? You just get rid, didn't you? And you already turned 30.
I'm 35. Yep, 35 in September.
Wow. So what would you say to your younger self? What would you say to your younger self? What would you say after you say what you say to your younger self? What would you say to your girls? And then I want you to look to all the ladies that are viewing, and what would you say to them that are still living, that's suffering in silence? Was that too much?
No, it's not. What I would say to myself, and the only thing I want myself to understand is that it's not my fault. Like I said at the top, it wasn't my fault. It's not my fault. We cannot control things that happen to us. And that is something that's so important.
Yeah.
You cannot control what happens to you. We cannot. To my daughters, you said?
Yeah, to your girls.
To my daughters, I want them to know that they can always talk to me, and I will always believe them.
Yeah.
Always, no matter what, I will always believe them. And to women who are still suffering in silence and are still on their journeys of healing, I ask, please don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't give up. And I am praying for a supernatural spirit of boldness just to go across the earth so that women can feel more courage and feel more courageous, and find their voice to speak their truth. There's something that is so powerful and freeing in, number one, calling up all of those experiences to the front. And it's not easy. And I'm not going to try to diminish anyone's walk or their journey towards this healing, because it is so hard. But I'm telling you, there's something so beautiful on the other side of that thing. So I ask for you to speak your voice. The reason why the world doesn't even understand how big of a problem this is because it is a trauma that happens in silence. It is probably the greatest trauma that we have. Yet it is in silence. We suffer in silence. It's highly underreported, so the data isn't even correct. But we know that it happens. I mean, now you can't even turn on the TVs without having a commercial now. And I'm so grateful for the advocacy work. But now they're blowing a whistle on the Boy Scouts being molested.
Yeah, I've heard about that, yeah.
We knew about the boys lately, and the little girls too, for that matter, from the priests been doing stuff. Now the nuns have been getting raped by the priests. People don't realize how rampant this issue really truly is. And it's just time, and I just hope that the victims and those survivors will continue to raise their voice and tell their stories, because God dwells in our unity. So we have to speak up so people can know how real this is, and we can get resources to people. Because again, if we can't heal what's hidden, so we can't reach out and touch to you, or I can't even let you know that I'm here for you if I don't know that that's your plight. So again. And I am available to anyone who may want to reach out.
So how can they find you? Like, what are you on? So if there's a woman that wants to talk to you, because like I said, this is something that I did not suffer and I have not experienced it, but we do have somebody that has, and she's always done a lot of stuff for Cover My Sister. She's a beautiful spirit. How can people reach you? Like, are you on any type of social media? So
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram.
What is your name on Facebook and Instagram?
My Facebook is Stacey Lynn Watson.
Okay.
And my Instagram is Miss Stacey Lynn. So it's MISSSTACIE
With the
LYNN. Thank you. Yes. So Stacey IE.
She take it very serious.
You won't find me otherwise. So it's Stacey with the IE, and then I have an email as well, StaceyLynn85@gmail.com. So, and I would be willing to, communicate with anyone who just needs someone just to listen. Wherever they're at, I would be willing to help, even if it's communicating them to resources that I may not have within myself, or
Okay. Now I remember you were doing something before we end this. Are you still? There was a Stacey the social. It was something
Yes,
that
I
you were
do.
doing. It
Yes.
was an organization that you were forming, or what is that you're doing? Do you want to talk about it real quick, or what?
So Stacey the Spiritual Social Worker, that's kind of like a brand that I am developing, because while I am a social worker, my spirit will always lead everything that's front and center with all that I do. So that's very important for that to be up front. So while I'm a social worker by career, my spirit leads everything. So, and plus I want that to be a safe space for believers to know that they can come to me, because I have the lens in which I view issues and problems. So that's very important to know that I view everything through a spiritual place first. So, you have Stacey the Spiritual Social Worker. I am actually doing a virtual consent week,
Awesome.
and I will give you the information, because we've been just enrolling out different pieces, but that will be April 13th through 17th. That's just next Monday through Friday.
Okay.
And I will get the information as far as which platform.
Okay.
And each day of the week we'll have different events, different themed activities, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Let me
Just
know.
the whole purpose is
that'd
to-
be good.
Educate so we can advocate and elevate.
Write that down. I'm gonna put that on a shirt. That's really good. So, is there anything else that you want to say, or you want to make mention of, or something that you may have missed that you want to make sure that you get it out before we end this video?
No, I just hope that I hope that we were able to speak to this epidemic in a place and put it in I hope that, I don't know, I'm getting nervous. He'll edit this part, all right? Yeah, we're going to do something. I don't think there's anything else. I'm just grateful for the opportunity, seriously, to speak and be able to just get some resources to at least one more person.
Yeah.
Or make one more person that much more comfortable to share their story.
Yeah.
So.
And I think you should continue sharing your story, not just on this platform, but you should continue going on, because so many people need to hear it, So
I was
think
asked,
it'll be good.
I'm so happy that you brought me on, because someone did Safe Space. Somebody reached out to me and they want me to come in this week to do just this. So
You should.
I'm very grateful that this was a good, comfortable space for me to be able to open up and be able to begin to share my story.
Yeah,
I am
I
so
think you
behind the
should.
scenes, and this is all new to me, but
Yeah.
it's all about a message. It's not about me.
Yeah, because it's your testimony, and the Bible tells us that we are overcome by our testimony. So if we share our testimony, a lot of things that we go through and that we experience is not always for us. Even in the season that I am in, God knows I'm in a test. But I know that there's glory after this. No matter that if I walked away, I stepped back from God. I've never walked away. I've never stepped back from God. But sometimes your mental state can overtake you, or sometimes you can be in a place that you looking at God like, wait a minute, I didn't see this coming, or I didn't expect this coming. So as I cover me, and as I pray for me, and as I watch over me, I want to be able to stick my hand out and bring another sister to be like, yo, you can share your story, because there's something in you that can help me, and I have something in you that can help. I have something in me that can help you. It has nothing to do about I'm so holier than thou.
We're all in this together.
It's the religion. It's the relationship. It's the relationship that we have with God is what gets us through. Just like you said, with everything that you went through, it was your relationship with Him. It was the purpose. It was who you knew Him to be. What He has shown you who He was, and we all we grow off experience. We grow off of what we've seen God do. Okay, so. As God continues to just shower you, I hope, and I can't wait to just see the great things. I'm like, oh my God, I was the first one she said on my
Yes.
So I can't all the things that the doors that are going to be opened up for you. So thank you so much for even saying yes, for allowing me into your beautiful home and sitting down and talking with you so you were able to get your story out. So thank you all again for sitting and listening. I know this video was long. I wanted it to be long because I wanted her to kind of get everything out. I don't know if I'm going to break it up in segments or if we're going to just release it all out and you can kind of go back and forth through it to listen to it. I think it was an amazing, amazing story. And if there's any women or even men that are suffering in silence, you don't have to suffer in silence. Stacey did give you her platforms where you're able to go in and just talk to her. If you don't want to reach out to me or if you want to reach out to me to reach out to her, then we can do that too. But it's time for healing. It's 2020 and nobody has to go through it alone. You know, like I said, I've never experienced it. I wouldn't know how you can feel, how you feel, but I can always be that listening ear. But if you want somebody that can actually walk alongside of you, that can tell you like, yeah, this is how you're gonna feel, then this definitely is the girl for you. So thank you again for joining. My next video is coming up soon. I have another amazing woman that'll be sitting on the couch with me and we'll hear her story. And we really appreciate it. So bye.